Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy and delighted to invite you to our live studio today with awesome and fabulous Diana Grant, who is a sacred self love coach, a speaker, and an author. She is my dearest friend, and she is a regular guest at my show where we speak about self love. Diana, I'm so happy to have you back in my studio because today we'll be discussing another exciting topic, trust issues.
Trust issues.
So tell us, Diana, you are self-love coach. So how do you think the trust issues and self-love are actually connected?
Fabulous. Thank you, Olga. It's so good to be here as always. It's really, really good. I love our chats.
Oh, me too.
Well, absolutely. I think trust issues come back down to self love. As in, if there are trust issues, some self love missing. Because, as you know, I'm absolutely passionate about everything related to self love, and I believe that it is the answer to everything. So, trust, first of all, I just want to say right up front, trust is a choice, and we've all had trust broken. We've all had expectations that weren't met. We've all had, things that we thought we understood between us and other people. So especially in relationships, and that trust has been broken. And what we do with that really comes back to how we are with ourselves. So I
Yeah.
think trust issues and self love go hand in hand. Self love is the healer. So yes.
I love that. I love the fact that you mentioned that self-love is the healer. And what I noticed personally, and tell me what you think about this, is very often we don't trust others because we don't trust ourselves.
Absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head right there, right up front, as you always do. As you always do. So, as you and I have chatted about so many times, and I mean, coaches and therapists and people in this line of work all over the world are always talking about the mirror. Life is a mirror. And absolutely, where there are trust issues, and that decision to trust is just so hard, and you feel like you can't make it, that's definitely an indicator that there's a lack of self-trust. And as we've chatted about so many times, self-trust is, it's not a thing to judge yourself on or to be harsh on. If there's trust missing within you, it's life. Life happens. We pick up stories along the way. We pick up conditioning. We pick up so much and so many experiences that somehow we forget to learn how to trust ourselves. But it's never too late. So that's the important part. It's never too late. So if there are trust issues, yes, I definitely say it's connected to how much you trust yourself. And the way to go about that is look within. Look within, love yourself, heal yourself, come to a place where trust lives inside of you. And then trusting others is an easy decision, an easy choice, because your own sense of well being, your happiness, your sense of fulfillment will not be pinned on the other person and their actions.
Very true, very true. When you say that, it's trusting within you, I understand you because we're on the same line, we do similar work, so okay, I get you. But I'm sure right now some people are sitting there listening to us. For example, like Zelda, she says, "Hello, you two beautiful ladies. It's good to have you here. Thank you, Zelda, for joining us." But for example, some people right now, I'm sure, are sitting there and thinking to themselves, "Well, I trust myself, but I don't trust others." So I'm sure we can help other people to recognize what does it mean 100% trusting themselves. For example, from my side, I must say here that if you are struggling to make decisions, this is a sign of you not trusting yourself. If you
Absolutely.
keep going back to the past and thinking, why did I do that? I shouldn't do that, and keep regretting, that's a sign of lack of self trust. If you in the
Absolutely.
morning are dressing up and you can't decide what to wear, and you have to go to your husband, you have to go to your wife, you have to, I don't know, send a picture to somebody for them to approve you. That is lack of self trust. So, can you give us more examples, Diana? When do you think other people can show their lack of self trust in their normal day to day behavior? Because
Mm.
to say you don't trust yourself, it's a big word, and not always we
Yeah.
can recognize that. So, let's help others to see those little signs of how and when they don't trust themselves by doing something.
Oh, that's so true, Olga. You've put some beautiful examples forward. Another one that is really, really key for me is boundaries. So going back on what you've said, you will tolerate. Like, we chatted about this last week. What do I make myself available for? What are my standards in life? And where are my boundaries? And if I keep going back on that and I keep saying, well, that's my standard, but I'll drop my standard because somebody else is around, or it goes hand in hand with what you mentioned, second guessing yourself, not being able to make the decision, not being sure, needing approval. Those things all work together. And some people might see it as, if you see somebody else who puts down a boundary and says there and no further. So, for example, that's behavior that I will accept from you, and that is behavior that I won't. And if you think that that's really harsh and you feel hurt by somebody else's decision for themselves, again, come back to yourself, because there could be a lack of trust on your own side and a lack of personal boundaries. So that's just another example. But everything we've mentioned here really kind of one feeds into the other, feeds into the other. That one about questioning your decisions and questioning what you're going to do next is a biggie. It's a real biggie. And those are simple day to day life ways of knowing that there's some trust missing. And trust means, if trust is missing, then self love is missing as well. Yeah.
Mm. Powerful examples. Thank you so much, because I think very often we forget about the boundaries. And you're
Mhm.
right, when we actually forget about our own boundaries, then trust. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Diana. So I wonder, how can we help others to heal themselves from not trusting themselves? No, it's such a big thing, because when we trust ourselves, we can trust others. Let's help others today with healing themselves, with recognizing when they actually do trust themselves, so they can also attract new people whom they can trust.
Absolutely. What a
Oh,
beautiful suggestion. And again, I think the most important thing is going into those day to day examples. So, like the ones we've just mentioned, little things as well. When you feel afraid to voice your opinion because other people might not approve of it, catching yourself in that moment, and it can be the simplest, smallest thing. You mentioned one of not being sure what I want to wear today. Catching that moment and then making a note of it. I always say that awareness is the first step. So noticing what is going on, and then taking the time, whether it be later that day or first thing the next morning, taking some time with yourself to check in what was going on in that moment. Why am I not certain of myself? Why was I struggling to make a decision like what to wear this morning? Why did I need someone else's approval? And then digging deeper, trying to go back, uncover your own story, so that you might have a story about um, thinking that, and it could come from years and years and years of conditioning of other people being very strong, being very sure, speaking their opinions louder over you, maybe telling you that that's a bad idea too many times in your childhood. And so eventually you stopped trusting yourself. Identifying where the story came from is so powerful, because in that moment you set yourself free and you can then create a new story. And then it's about practicing that. And of course, I'm going to suggest working with a coach, because it is so powerful to have someone mirror back to you these moments and just support you on your journey. However, if you can't get a coach, you and I, Olga, we know about this. Self coaching is always a possibility, and that's why we come on here all the time, sharing these ideas, sharing these tips. There are ways to do it if you can't get a coach for yourself, but it takes commitment. And I know I always seem to come back to that commitment to yourself, going within, creating time and space for you. Because at the end of the day, your journey is all about you. So if you can't give yourself the time and the energy to look into these situations and to work on that healing, then it's not going to just happen magically. Yeah, it needs some attention.
very true, very true. And what you refer to is very, very important. It is about commitment to yourself, because we can always blame others. Oh, I can't trust my employees. I can't trust my boss. I can't trust my partner. I can't trust whatever, whatever. You can always blame others. And it's easier, and it's quicker, and that means you are just don't have to worry about your work on yourself. But when you take the responsibility for your own decisions, when you are committed to yourself and you work on yourself, when you decide to step up for yourself, that okay, I will deal with why I don't trust myself. Just like you said, maybe you had a childhood event, maybe somebody was putting you down before, maybe somebody laughed at you, and since then you don't want to actually trust your opinions and your decisions. But it doesn't mean that your past will have to determine your future. Les Brown said this
Exactly.
magical word: your past does not determine your future. So it's your responsibility, it's your duty to step up for yourself and heal yourself, heal your own lack of self trust, basically. We can see some more people are joining us saying hello. That's wonderful to hear. And also, would love to hear where are you joining us from? So
Yes.
far, we shared some tips on how you can heal lack of self trust within you so you can trust others. And also, we shared symptoms of lack of self trust towards yourself. Because very often, when we say, oh, you don't trust yourself if you don't trust others, people say, no, I trust myself. So if you watch this video since beginning, you will hear the symptoms of you not trusting yourself. I'm not saying you don't, but potentially you don't. So make sure you do watch this video since beginning, because there'll be some valuable information about that. But anyways, Diana, I wonder, have you experienced a lack of self-trust? And the reason why I asked, because I know, there's so many videos, you watch them back and you think, oh, yeah, these two ladies, they got it. They've never been there before. They don't know how it feels. They haven't gone through that. I have the pain, but they don't. So I would like just to highlight to people that we are the average people who have been through the same situation. So could you please share a little bit your story about self-trust and how did you improve that?
Absolutely, Olga. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have had our journeys. We've come through everything we speak about, basically. For me, a key example in my life was I come from a background where I actually had very, very probably no personal boundaries at one point in my life. I had become such a people pleaser. I had gone through many life events that had just made me want to please everyone around me and make sure that everyone else was happy and everyone else was comfortable. And I just didn't feel right ever voicing what I wanted. People who know me will laugh at that. It's like, that's impossible. Because not only was I in that space of people pleasing, but I masked it really well. Extremely confident, go getter, as if nothing would stand in my way. And yet, I was always checking, always making sure that I looked okay according to media standards like fashion. So it was all about fashion. How do I look? How do I come across? Am I saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Is everyone around me happy? It was my ex-husband at the time, my colleagues, people that I reported to at work, friends. Nobody really knew me on an intimate level because I was so busy trying to make sure that they were all happy that I really didn't have my own set of personal boundaries. And what ended up happening is, as a result of that, you can imagine the pressure. So I basically imploded because I had so much going on that I wasn't really sharing my intimate inner self with anybody. I wasn't processing my stuff. I wasn't able to trust people, not even with my own truth. And so, therefore, I didn't trust myself at all. And it all came crashing down. And I basically had to rebuild from scratch. I needed help, so I did turn to somebody to support me through the process. And that's where I learned about boundaries in the first place. I was like, boundaries? What are boundaries? Didn't even know what the word meant. And slowly learning that and slowly realizing that I had stopped trusting myself at quite a young age and started putting everyone else's opinions before mine, everyone else's happiness. And then, of course, because I didn't trust myself and I didn't trust people around me, people broke my trust because we create what we think all the time and what we believe, as you know. So yeah, I was constantly being let down, and it was just this whole thing of if I do everything for everyone else, how come nobody ever does anything for me? How come they break my trust? How come they let me down? And of
Yes.
course, that was a tough one to actually face and see, like, oh boy, I need to work on me. I need
Mm.
to heal my stuff and the places where these stories started, where they came from, this lack of trust. And and learn how to trust myself and my decisions and what I wanted for myself, and make that okay. Yeah, and not put everyone else ahead of me. So it was quite a journey for me. And yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it can be perceived that we're okay because we're talking about this now, but it's been a journey to get here.
That's the thing, exactly. Because
Mm,
very often people think those who speak about all of that, they never had it. They just talk about it. But the reason why we speak about this important topic because we had to have our own journey. And I
mhm,
love the fact how much you highlight that you had your pain, you had your suffering,
mm,
and that was coming from other people. It was very easy for you to blame them and to say, "Oh, these old people are wrong. I need to be with
yeah,
different people." And that's the first reaction. That's understandable reaction. But I'm really proud of your journey. I'm really proud of you taking that responsibility, taking the charge of your life and saying, no, I know I attracted them
mm,
based on my own life story.
mm,
So I'm really proud of you overcoming that. And that is a perfect example how important it is to start working on yourself. If you want
mm.
to change the world around you, start with yourself. That's the most powerful thing which you can do actually, right? So it's really, really
Absolutely.
important to do that. So thank you so much for sharing your story because I think it's really powerful to show other people that the reason why we speak here about lack of self-trust and self-love and how they're connected is because we have been on this journey,
Mm,
including myself. I wouldn't be saying here that you have to work on your self-love, you have to connect with yourself, you have to really tune in with yourself if I wouldn't go through that. Because I
mm.
also had similar situation, not identical to you, of course, Diana, because everybody has a unique story. But
Sure.
in my situation, that was my partner who had massive controlling issues and massive lack of trust towards me. Yes,
Mm,
because of his own story, because his previous wife cheated on him with a business partner. So, he had his own story. But I had to attract him. I
yeah.
had to attract him. And
Mhm.
and me attracting him was based on me not trusting myself and my decisions.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was doubting my decision at the time for many years, right? So that meant when I realized that I was like, oh wow, okay, it's not
Yeah.
him. It was easy to
Yes.
be with him, but it's not him, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
I have to heal myself. I have to
Mm-hmm.
understand myself. I have to see where it's coming from. And I have to practice trusting myself. Just like you said
Exactly.
earlier, Diana, notice when you do make a decision what to wear,
Mm.
notice when you express your opinion, and that's okay, right? You got to really notice and pay attention to all of these actions which you do, that you trust yourself in order to retrain yourself to have the trust yourself. And what's interesting,
Absolutely.
I remember I was actually making a list. I'm a list girl. I like making lists. I'm not sure how about other people, right?
Me too.
Yeah, but I love making lists. So what I was doing, I was making a list. Today I made a decision on. Today I decided
Mm.
to wear XYZ. And I was
Mhm.
making the list of me deciding, of me trusting my choices, trusting my opinions, and trusting my decisions. Right?
Yes.
The more you
Beautiful.
practice, the better you'll become at that.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's absolutely about practice. And just to go back to something you said as well, is that moment when you get that realization. I remember realizing, oh, this comes back to me. We
Yes.
know how that feels. It's a shocker, and our subconscious is so clever. So quickly we can turn it around and point blame because, like you said, it's easy and it's quite obvious to blame. There are circumstances, there are people, there are situations to be able to blame. Um, but in that moment where you feel it and you know that it's here, that this is inside, this is what I have to work with.
Yes.
Yes, it's tough, but we know how that feels, and it's moving past that and practicing the new way and healing so that feeling can't be replaced when you start seeing a shift and start taking back your power because in effect trusting yourself is taking back your own personal power.
That is very, very wise to say that trusting yourself is taking back personal power. And the most powerful thing I think about your personal development and you working on yourself is when you notice shift in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I remember at one of the conversations, Diana, we had discussion about these shifts and how do we know when we release the old belief? Do you remember that conversation? Right?
Yes, I do.
And what we both just basically agreed on based on the observations in life, that the minute you see a new story in your life, this is when you know you adapted the new truth in your life. So the minute you see people trust you, the minute you see that you make decisions and you don't doubt yourself, the minute you see you don't regret your choices, the minute you see you verbalize your opinions and you feel good, that's when you made the shift. But to get that,
Absolutely.
you got to do some work. Just like you go to gym, you don't go to gym just once and expect you to be bodybuilder. Come
Yeah.
on, you go to do and build those muscles. The same here. The minute you
Yes.
see your muscles are shaping up, you know all
Yes.
that work, that persistence, that consistency paid off. The same here.
Absolutely. Life will change. And from the outside, for other people, it might look like all of a sudden. So all of a sudden, um, Diana has such an opinion. She's changed. All of a sudden, Diana's so confident and she's out there and she's saying what she thinks. She's changed. And yet you will know yourself that it's not necessarily all of a sudden you've been spending that time, putting that energy in. Like the example of the gym is brilliant. And you start seeing the muscles, the changes, the new situations, and looking around and going, this is what I always want, especially in relationships. This relationship feels good. This is how I imagined it. And then just realizing, this is all that work that I've been doing. Yes, no wonder this relationship looks like this. And we both know that feeling, right, Olga?
Oh, we so know it. We so know it. I remember my big, huge revelation about self love. And I would say here,
Mhm.
a little word here, unconditional self love.
Yes.
My big revelation about unconditional self love was when I realized that I'm expecting other people to love me unconditionally. When I had so many conditions towards myself, I had to be a specific weight. I had to be speaking specific level of my English. I had to achieve certain level of success. I had to be at specific places. So I had so many conditions. So when I was allowed to love myself,
Yeah.
and yet I was expecting from other people, particularly from my partner, to love me unconditionally.
Yes.
And when I realized that, I was horrified. I
Mm.
was like,
It's a
whoa.
shocker. Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness. Mhm.
Absolutely. Because you think, how can you expect others to love you unconditionally when you don't love yourself
Mm.
unconditionally? You don't accept yourself unconditionally. So
Yeah.
I'm sure this is a topic for another day, another session, but I just wanted to bring this because I think this is so powerful, right? Because
Very.
other people around you are mirroring you. This
Yes.
is what they do. They mirror you what happens in
Yes.
your brain.
Absolutely. And there's that feeling, that realization of how could I have been doing this to myself? Because
Yes.
the fact is, Olga, and yes, our world mirrors us, the people in our lives mirror us. And we teach people how to treat us by
Yeah.
how we treat ourselves and what we accept. So, yes, to realize, how long have I done this to myself? That's the first step, absolutely the first step. And then everything starts shifting with that healing, with that realization. Yes.
Very true, very true. And I love the fact that you said that we train other people how to treat ourselves by the way how we treat ourselves. And some of people who are watching us right now probably are thinking, well, I don't get it. Like, what does it mean we train other people? Do we have to train? The truth is, you don't train with a power, with a push, with a force. No. People observe, what do you do to yourself?
Yes.
Right? For
Yes.
example, as a woman, do you buy yourself flowers when you are single, or you don't buy yourself flowers? If a
Yes.
man walks into your house and there are no flowers, he will have no clue you like flowers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a beautiful example. Beautiful example. Something a little bit more in depth maybe is how you what you accept. So it's
Yes,
also people watch like I might say, don't speak to me that way. But then the next time you speak to me that way, I don't say anything because
absolutely,
I gave up on myself.
absolutely.
So, and then that's observed. And even though it's not consciously observed, I mean, we're not all walking around watching each other consciously making notes, in our little notebook, but our subconscious is doing that for us all the time. So, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
very true. And I
Hmm.
think one of the easiest examples to understand for all would be when you walk into the room and somebody is swearing in that room, then you automatically know it's okay to swear.
That's it. There we go. Beautiful example. I love how you give analogies.
And
Yes.
then you know around these people, You can swear.
Yeah.
And then you walk into a different room and then nobody swears.
Mhm.
And automatically you
You-
might say a word or two, but then by the looks at you, you will
Yes.
quickly figure out that's not the place to do it.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens? We do it all the time. We observe, we hear, we feel what other people do to themselves, and we mirror their behavior to themselves.
Yes.
And that's why it's really important to dive deeper into you and look into your level of self-love towards yourself. Unconditional self-love to yourself,
Hmm.
okay? Not conditional.
Absolutely.
Yes. So then if you do experience lack of self-trust towards other people, or other people are mirroring to you lack of self-trust, they don't believe your decisions, your choices, your opinions, whatever it is, then have a look inwards and see what happens there for you.
Yes, absolutely. Olga, you've come to the key of the matter, I think, is that self trust is linked to self love, and that is all about self knowledge. So it's about getting to know yourself just as you would get to know somebody else. And I know I say this just about every single time I ever open my mouth to speak about self love, but it's absolutely about self knowledge. So know yourself, get to know those stories, shift the ones that don't work for you anymore, like lack of trust and lack of self trust, and then be that. Be the best version of who you are and continue to be the best version of who you are with every single day that passes. And that requires commitment to self. So, yes, self trust is intrinsically linked to that um, unconditional self love. Absolutely.
It definitely is. And Diana, you are the one who actually works with people on that particular topic, that self love. So, if people based on this session would like to get in touch with you, would like to find out more about you, how they can get in touch with you, please? Could you share that?
Absolutely. So I am all over online. The easiest way is my website, which is my name. So it's www.dianagrant.com. And all my contact details are on there, all my social medias, because I'm on all the social media platforms. And really reach out to me in whichever way makes you feel comfortable. My website has all the information on it. So yeah, thank you. And I absolutely look forward to hearing from people. I love connecting with people on this topic. It's a
Oh,
beautiful
that's
journey.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your information, Diana. And before we finish off this video, I would like just to send some love and our prayers to Adnat Kainak. He actually shared here with us on LinkedIn. He agrees with what we speak today about on the show, but he says he's hello from Turkey. He says, our lungs are on fire. Treacherous terrorists burned our forest. 160 fires in 34 provinces under control. 14 fires continue in 15, which is
Wow.
quite scary, and really
Very.
sorry to hear about it, Adnan. And I think that's one of the, it will sound very harsh, but it's one of the perfect examples of huge lack of self-love of those people who do that. Why? Because when you're plantful within yourself, when you accept yourself, when you love yourself, when then you project love and abundance to the world, then you don't have to do stuff like that. So when I hear about stories like that, I know that those people who do stuff like that, they suffer. They suffer from
Oh,
huge issues within themselves. So our prayers and our apologies for what happens there right now, Adnan. But stay strong, what I can say, and don't go into the dark side of blamings and anger and stuff,
yes.
because that will eat you from inside, right? That will
Mm.
eat you from inside. Just believe in the good and stay in a bright light. This is what I can say about this situation.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I did see something about it last night, and I have been bringing Turkey into my meditations as well when I'm channeling energy with groups, which is wonderful. So we will keep doing that. And absolutely, Olga, as you say, it's to send light and love in that direction, and
Yes.
not anger and blame, because that just it keeps feeding the problem. But that is tragic. Yeah. Wow.
It is tragic, absolutely. It's very tragic. Tragic. It's very, very sad to hear and to read about these, and I'm really thankful, Adam, that you bring it up, because then more people can be aware of that. But again, let's remember that you and your peace within yourself will project more peace towards the world, right? So remember that. Okay. But Diana, my darling, thank you so much for coming to the show today, sharing your expertise and your wisdom on such important topic, self-love. And today we covered such a unique niche topic about self-love, which is self-trust. And I'm really, really happy that we were able to give people the signs of the lack of self-love and self-trust. We were able to help people with how to overcome that self-trust issues which they have, and hopefully people will be able to apply that. Please don't forget, reach out to Diana if you would like to improve yourself and you would like to level up. And definitely make sure you love yourself within yourself. Spread the love around you, and this way the world will be a much better place.
Absolutely. Thank you, Olga. Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful, and I look forward to next time.
Thank you so much. Me too. I'm very excited about our next show, which is going to be first week of September. It will be very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, it will be our honeymoon. So we will be so
Ooh.
honeymooned.
Oh, wow.
It will be.
Fantastic.
Exactly. So I'll be speaking to you, Diana, at our next show from our honeymoon
Oh,
place.
fantastic.
How wonderful.
Very
So
wonderful. That is
take care,
exciting.
everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Have a bliss and take care.
Thank you.